Now, one of the things the movie is most known for is the death of Optimus Prime, which scarred many a young child. I, of course, wasn't old enough to remember that. I do remember being extremely scared of Unicron, though. In fact, I think he might have caused my fear of things that are so incredibly large that they could eat me without even noticing it. But I digress. The movie killed off Optimus Prime and a lot of other characters, the reason being to make room for all the new characters that they wanted to sell the toys for. To name a few, Skylynx, Cup, Hot Rod, Rodimus Prime, Cyclonus, Scourge, and Galvatron. Speaking of those three, this movie introduced a bunch of new things into continuity, and in fact, helped shape Transformers into what it is today. It introduced the Matrix of Leadership, which was also the first sort of, there's a phrase that's been thrown out that I've heard recently called Magic Transformers. It was really the first piece of magic in Transformers. You could argue that it's just a power source and repository of wisdom, but it really isn't. Dead Transformers going into it, the insane amount of power that it holds, being able to physically transmogrify Hot Rod into Rodimus Prime. It's a magical MacGuffin if there ever was one. It also introduced Unicron, who I talked about a little bit ago, who reformatted Megatron into Galvatron, and Skywarp Thrust and the Insecticons into Cyclonus, Scourge, and the Sweeps. I'm not going to go into who was reformatted into who with that, because that's just an endless black hole that I want no part of. Anyway, I haven't yet reviewed this movie as a whole, because there's a lot of things to mention that it brought into continuity. So let's go ahead and do that now. The movie, I think, is highly entertaining, at the least because it was so over the top. The music, the acting, the action was all over the top to a degree that I think it will always be enjoyed to some extent. And, there are a lot of things that were still cool about it. Like, of course, how badass Megatron was within the first 15 minutes of the film. The reformatting scene was actually pretty impressive for the time. And things like, at the end, when Rodimus does open the Matrix and the touch starts playing, it does send a little bit of chill down my spine. So, all in all, what the movie did was it set up this future continuity for Season 3. It set up a lot of new characters and questions and all sorts of things. And it was, all in all, a fun time. Of course, after the movie came Season 3. Season 3 was a major shift in focus from Season 2. Brand new characters, brand new plots, brand new scenarios, everything was different. And I have to say, I actually did enjoy Season 3 a lot. I liked Rodimus as a character, Rodimus Prime as a character, and I liked his occasional struggle with becoming the leader that Optimus Prime was. I really enjoyed the different factions. In Season 1, it didn't really feel like a war. It felt like a skirmish, and in fact it felt like a game. It was just, Optimus Prime had his troops, Megatron had his troops, and every now and then they'd fight, and then they'd go back to their bases and, regroup, and it didn't feel much like a war at all. But in Season 3, we have the EDC, the Junkions, the Quintessons, various other interstellar races. There were plenty of different characters, all doing different things, all with different motives. Anything from, the almost always comedy relief, but still, I would say, viable characters of the Junkions, to the extremely sadistic Quintessons, and any number of alien race stereotypes that they wanted to pull out of their butts. It also, of course, had a major shift. It was no longer about Earth much at all, which was pretty interesting, I think. They had a lot more space episodes, a lot more science fiction than action-themed episodes, I would say, comparing it to seasons 1 and 2. It also had some excellent episodes that I want to name off as some of my favorites. The Killing Jar, Starscream's Ghost, oh man, Web World. I even really enjoyed Fight or Flee, and even in some ways, I really enjoyed The Face of Nijika. I could keep going, talking about individual episodes forever. But, also I'd like to state, when I looked up the episodes to get a list so I could see them all listed, I found that the order that I viewed them in is different than their viewed order, and when I looked up a little information, apparently they had major continuity issues in their original release. The way I saw them, the continuity was preserved, and I enjoyed that a lot. That it had a great degree of continuity in between episodes, that were definitely not two-parters, like the whole Starscream's Ghost thing, the thing with the Quintesson Journal, things that I never expected to be necessarily touched on again, but definitely weren't. Now, there's also the dark side of Season 3, and that is the animation. It was animated by a different company, and it's kind of obvious. There's a lot of mistakes, there's a lot of problems. I wouldn't say... Yeah, it is kind of worse than Seasons 1 and 2. But me personally, story is always more important, so I can ignore those. There also were some pretty bad episodes in Season 3. Episodes like Surprise Party, or what's the other one? Carnage in C Minor. Carnage in C Minor actually had a interesting concept, but it was just fucked up so badly. Another thing I'd like to mention while I'm talking about Season 3 is Daniel and Wheelie. Now, I had a lot of exposure, to people talking about Transformers before I watched this, and so I expected Daniel and Wheelie to be a constant thorn in my side, but they weren't. I mean, really, guys, you can lay off of Daniel and Wheelie. The only time they really bugged me was in Surprise Party, but other than that, they weren't that bad. I mean, sure, they were a little more immature, but they were also younger than Spike and Bumblebee were, so it's only natural. I mean, like, even in the episode, what was the name of it? Nightmare Planet. They weren't that annoying by any, Daniel wasn't that annoying by any means. And Wheelie's rhyming did kind of bug me, but not enough to make me hate him. In fact, the only character in Transformers I would say I hate would be Huffer. That's because he's just a whiner. But anyway, my point is, lay off Wheelie and Daniel. They're not that bad. So, Season 3, a lot of crazy things happened, a lot of new things happened, a lot of odd things happened. I actually enjoyed it. I watched the episodes because I really, really wanted to see the next one, and not because, just sort of to get through them, which I kind of was doing with Seasons 1 and 2.